Dulac had his chat yesterday, Dorin. And when Dulac speaks, sometimes he gets stuff wrong, but I feel like he's getting it from the top and the way that they kind of view things. They were holding their cards close to the vest with Russell Wilson and with Justin Fields. Okay, I think Dulac's done a good job of having his finger on the pulse more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
He said there's only one position where they have to find a plug-and-play guy, and that's center. I just couldn't disagree with that more. I do think they need a plug-and-play guy. It worries me to read Dulac put that out there because now that's how I think they're viewing themselves. Like, we need a center. Oh, okay, you look at the depth chart here, man, and George Pickens is your number one wide receiver. Your number 2 and 3 are Van Jefferson and Quez Watkins. You can't walk out there on the first Sunday of the season with that. You're starting corners. You can't win with it. You got 2 corners right now. One of them's not good. The guy you got for Deontay Johnson. I just think if that's the way they're viewing things, they don't have a good enough understanding of their roster.
Well, I mean, if you kind of look at it out of this lens, I feel like whenever you say plug and play, that means that a guy that you sign and has to be like an absolute hit. And to be an absolute hit, it's hard to sometimes find that in the draft. I mean, even they traded up for Broderick Jones last year, and he had to wait. So I can see where Dulac's coming from, where it's like we need to get a veteran center to come in here and to be able to facilitate the offensive line. But everywhere else we could facilitate in the draft.
Well, I think he's saying that they need to draft a center in the first round, and it has to be a guy that plays right away, is the way I took that. Now, it kind of depends on who they view as that center that could step in right away.
I feel like the first 3 picks that they pick have to play right away.
Yeah.
At this point.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm thinking that he's saying, like, okay, like, they're going to trade. If they need a position and it is center, like, they're better off trading for a center that has already played center, and you could kind of backfill every other position and not, tackle. Like, if you really look at it, like, do they really need to draft a tackle? No.
You and I have disagreed on that. I think they absolutely do.
But I think they do. No, I think they do.
But they don't view it that way.
They don't need to. They have a starter.
They don't view it that way. They think that Dan Moore Jr. is a good enough left tackle.
Yes, they don't need to waste a pick in their mind on the 20th pick on a first round tackle. They don't think that.
They think they can
get by.
They think they need.
Yes.
If they're going to take an offensive lineman, their view is we need a center to plug and play because right now it's Herbig. We don't need a left tackle to plug and play because we've got Dan Moore Jr.
We don't need a number 1 wide receiver. We maybe need a 2 or a 3. That's not a plug and play type guy.
Which is nuts to me that further down Dulac's chat, he's talking about how hard they've pushed to get Brandon Ayuk. Well, okay. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth, or he's typing with 2 different hands here. They feel like they only have one glaring hole at center, but they've been trying really hard to get Brandon Ayuk. That tells me that they feel like they've got a need at wide receiver, too. And that's how I view things. I think they have maybe even 5 really big question marks on this team. Doesn't mean it hasn't been a good offseason. You got the quarterbacks. You got Patrick Queen. Blah. But I look at left tackle. He ain't good enough. I look at center. Who's the he? Herbig? He ain't good enough. He's not a starting caliber NFL center you're going to throw out there for 17 games. I look at cornerback, and Joey Porter Jr., I think, is going to be a superstar. But Dante Jackson's your 2, and then a guy who got hurt last year that was a 7th-round pick might be your 3. You don't have you have 0 depth there.
Mm-hmm.
So those are 3 massive holes for me. Plus wide receiver is 4. And you start looking at defensive line, and it's Larry Ogunjobi, Keanu Benton, Cam Hayward, and your primary backups are Isaiah Loudermilk, Montravius Adams, and DeMarvin Leal. Hey, I don't know about you, man, but I don't look at Larry Ogunjobi as a sure thing at all, whether he stays healthy or otherwise. I don't believe he's going to stay healthy for 17 games. And if he does, he hasn't done anything here. Keanu Benton, bullish on that guy. But Cam Hayward, when he's healthy, he's good. He wasn't healthy last year, and when he came back, he wasn't the same player because, let's face it, he wasn't going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 out of your 3 starting defensive linemen are old guys that you can't count on. That's a 5th hole for me. So I just don't subscribe to the notion, if this is the way the Steelers view it, the only position we need a guy to come in and plug and play is center. No, I think they got probably 4, teetering on 5 with the defensive line. And that's a terrible place to be going into the draft. For all the good things Omar Khan has done, they have left themselves way too many holes. I will change my tune big time if they trade for a wide receiver. Because if you do, that hole's gone. Forget about it. You take a later round wide receiver. But now you've got a first-round pick you could use on a right tackle, move Broderick over to left. Second-round pick, maybe trade up and get your center of the future. And then you'll see what happens at defensive line and at corner. But at least you'd have then solidified 3 holes. If they make no trade, there's no way they're going to fix all the holes and mask over everything. It's just not going to happen.
I really think they messed up with the Deontay Johnson trade, and it's not for the reason why people think right now in saying that they don't have any receiver help. I really think they could have got something done for L'Jarius Sneed. I think that if they would have not made it as personal and said, bleep you, Deontay, we're going to send you to Carolina.
Great point.
And the Kansas City Chiefs wanted him. They wanted Deontay Johnson. They were willing to make a deal. You could have made a deal for Deontay Johnson, L'Jarius Sneed, sign and trade, and that's what the Titans did.
You know what, man?
Like that could have really solidified your cornerback position, and you won't have to worry about Dante Jackson playing on the outside, and he wouldn't even be here.
That's well said by you, because I thought you were going to say, man, I wish they didn't trade Deontay Johnson.
No.
I think we all agree you're not going to win with a guy like that. You're not. He gave up on plays last. We don't need to relitigate it. We all know why Deontay Johnson wasn't working out here, and you might have another one in George Pickens. You don't need a bunch of those guys. They viewed it, at least they said so much, as player in, player out, and you fixed a position and needed corner. Dante Jackson's not good enough. L'Jarius Sneed is, and by grinding an axe there, by sending him to the Island of Misfit Toys down in Carolina, they got a worse player than they potentially could have gotten in Kansas City. They didn't want to give Deontay Johnson to the Chiefs.
But you take basically arguably the Chiefs' second best player on their defense, so it's kind of an even trade.
Right. It becomes, I totally agree with you. They cut off their nose to spite their face there, and they thought they masked over a hole at corner, and they didn't. It continues to be one, and then they opened one up at wide receiver. 412-928-9370. You can weigh in on that conversation. Here's one. Crowley overreacting. It's April, for God's sake. You're going into the draft, and you've got 5 holes. I'm not saying they're not going to... I think they're going to win 9 or more games next year just by virtue of the quarterback position being better. But if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, no, it's all good, they have 1 or 2 holes, I just don't know what you are looking at. Another text. Crowley thinks they need a Pro Bowler at every position. No, I don't. I just think you need better than Dante Jackson. And you need better than Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson. If those are your 4 and 5 or 3 and 4, you're fine. They're not right now. That's the point.